for me, my light bulb moment for like what I wanted to do was in 2009. It was January of 2009, and I was attending a first, like I'd learned and kind of looked at stuff on like T Nation, Muscle Nation magazines from Charles Poliquin, the late Charles Poliquin. And he was in Australia doing a seminar, and it was a 10 days straight, right? It was a 10-day straight seminar. And at the time I was just working by myself as a PT. I was earning good money. I was probably earning about 150 grand a year, $3,000 and a bit a week, trading time for money, working 6-7 days a week. And by that time, like Clean Health was a year old, but Clean Health was literally just a way for me to mitigate my tax by setting up a corporate structure under a brand through Fitness First, where I could, have some of the tax deduction kind of scenarios that a company compared to a sole trader affords you. And so I remember anyway sitting down this day one, this workshop with Charles Poliquin. And obviously at this time he was, the biggest name, him and Paul Check in the industry. And I went in there, I'd already been in the industry for 7-8 years. $150,000 as a trainer back in 2008 was a lot of money. With inflation, it's like 300 grand now or whatever it is. So I was already one of the highest earning trainers in the country, and was already getting good results. I'd gone to uni, done all that stuff, but I went in there and within 2 hours of being there, I'm like, I'm a dumb shit. Like I went in there with this ego, and then very quickly I realized like, fuck, like on a domestic scale in my city, I'm elite. But if I go into the big bad ocean on a global scale, now I'm the small fish. Now I'm the junior trainer in my local Fitness First when I compare myself to these people. And it was probably the light bulb that made me realize that, and we've all gone through it, you've gone through it, I've gone through it, that whole ego. And I think especially as driven, ambitious men, it can be the downfall of us at times. It can be both the catalyst for growth, but also the downfall. But I remember distinctly remembering like, fuck, I don't know anything. And so I reached out to Charles at lunch break and I said, could I hire you for an hour just to pick your brain? And he you remember what he was like. He looked me up and down and he's like, yeah, you can. He's $1,000 US. I'm like, I remember thinking to myself like, $1,000 US for 1 hour? And I didn't want to say no. I'm like, okay, cool, I'll pay it. And then in that hour, when I sat down with him, I was able to kind of start learning from someone that was literally decades ahead of me at that point in time in not just servicing client results, like from an industry perspective, but also a business perspective. And by the end of that hour, I realized that my skill set and knowledge could only go so far as an individual, that for me to actually go out there and scale, to train more people, to serve more clients, to help people, I needed to evolve my business model. And so that business model in that area of the industry, as you know, was let's open a gym, right? But obviously at that point in time, there was no, the gym scene in 2009, 2010, you literally had the beginnings of franchises like Anytime Fitness and things like that. So today we see all of these franchises, they weren't available back then. So to open a gym, you literally had to open a boutique gym without you're not going to get finance for it because it's an unproven business model. Even getting your equipment on hire, right? So literally I realized at that point, I wanted to open up a gym and I started to kind of visualize what that was going to be. And then, B, it's okay, well, to do that, I'm going to need at that time about the way I wanted to do it, about $750,000. And my current service delivery as a PT, that's going to take me fucking 10 years to do it. So I remember I went back home and started, trying to figure out things. And then I realized that to get to that level of economics to go and open this first gym, I had to bring on people to work with me in the team. And you remember all of the original Clean Health coaches because I know you were around back in the day. And so to do that, I'm like, okay, well, I need to have trainers working with me, but I also need to generate enough leads to feed into them. So how can I do that? And so I'm like, okay, well, I'm already getting good results, but I need to get phenomenal results. I need to get such good results that literally, like when people think of results, they just think of me. And so I'm like, how can I do that? Well, I have skill gap deficiencies in nutrition. I have skill gap deficiencies in physique prep. I have skill gap deficiencies in periodization, in programming. So I'm like, what courses can I go and do so that I can kind of collapse a 10-year learning period into 1 or 2 years? So in 2010 and 2011, like, mate, I was fucking obsessed. I remember one time I found out that Francine Savard was doing a 2-day comp prep seminar in Rhode Island on a Saturday and Sunday. I found out on the Monday, 5 days out. I'm like, I booked it. I booked my economy ass back of the thing flight. That Friday morning, I flew to Boston, got in a car, drove to Rhode Island, drove to Rhode Island, got into the hotel at like 9 o'clock that night, woke up the next morning, did the 2-day seminar on the Sunday at 6 o'clock, got in my car, drove back to Boston, got on the plane and came back to Australia, arrived at 5 a.m, went to the gym at 6:30, trained clients about 3, then I think just collapsed and like, fuck, I've got to go home and sleep. And then went back and sleep. Like, that was my level of commitment. And within 12 months of doing that, there became separation between my skills and my competitors, the other coaches of the industry. All of a sudden, a result that might have taken me 6 months to get, I could get in 12 weeks.